Okay. Question. You have a question?
Yeah, I have a question. Okay, so my business partner and I, we're in the process of writing a course.
Yeah.
It's a new course. It's my first time writing a course, and I want to know, in your experience, what are some key elements in a course that's important to generate interactiveness on Zoom, because it's on Zoom,
right?
And I don't know if it's dependent versus with Jews or non-Jews. I don't know. But
do you know how big the group is going to be that you're working with? Because that's a big
this is a pilot drive course.
Yeah,
we're piloting it out, so we want to limit to like 6 to 8 people. And we did ask each one over the phone, like, please turn your cameras. It's supposed to be interactive.
Okay, good.
It's a 2.5 hour workshop course.
Yeah.
So I wanted to know, like, because we know, like, you know, what's inherently good about it. You know, like we were in your teaching, in your class.
Yeah.
Like we get it. We understand interacting with the questions.
Yeah.
So, but like, I feel like, you know, like even when we have classes, like within our offices, like people are like dead.
Right.
Like there's no like engagement. It's like depressing dead, you know? Like,
right. Yeah. So I part of it is going to have to do with the particular people in the group. Like there are people who, like, we are, I think, you know, used to Zoom being an interactive format, but for people who this is going to be their, you know, an unusual thing, people who are used to sitting passively in meetings, that might be a different challenge, which I've never met yet. But I think the basic thing is, as much as you can do, like my philosophy in teaching in general, I don't know if you could tell, is that you want to generate as much opportunity as possible for input from the students, and then you respond to that. And so you have to make sure to identify in your mind, like, what are each point that you're going to make, see if you can even break it down into subpoints, you know, and like ask and get feedback. And the trickiest thing is time management, because and that takes years of practice, but like, you know, it could become a thing where you get so bogged down in the discussion that you don't get through all your points, and that's really bad, you know? So like that takes practice. But
so he does have like this website called Session Lab, where you could just put in like either an hour or 2 hours, like you can put in like color-coded categories or whatever.
Oh, meaning to like make sure that you stay on pace.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. That's helpful. Yeah. But it's I mean, that would be my main input.
I have a thought about that also. That to whatever extent you can, you should communicate to people that you want this to be responsive.
Yes.
And, you know, make it good. It's not just like you're positive. It's that the way that you're planning for this to go is that people are responding. You know.
Yeah.
An additional thing, I don't know what the style of this course thingy is, but having some interactive thing like game or exercise that people can do at the beginning where they need to be interactive, where it's not a choice, will set the tone of this is what we're doing, and then you can kind of just follow up.
It opens the door, Even something as simple as some simple icebreaker, even like it doesn't have to be, you know, is a good way to do it, especially if it's such a small group. Like you want, and are these people who know each other already or not?
Not necessarily.
So then that's even more important, because then you get people comfortable interacting with, you know, in the presence of people who they don't know.
I would say another thing is that when you're trying to get people to respond, to be comfortable with silence. Because if you're quiet and people are like, and then like the silence is like stretching on, everyone's going to feel a pressure to break that silence. And as long as you're, you know, I mean, you're going to be feeling that too. But if you're consciously, you know, keeping that silence there, then someone will have to say something, you know.
Yeah. Hold on just a second here. Oops, what did I just do? I clicked twice. Rabbi Foreman, who was my mentor in grad school, I just want to see, had this is a thing he was famous for, the importance of wait time. So there's two strategies of wait time, wait time 1 and wait time 2. Wait time 1 is a teaching strategy where after posing a question, the teacher hesitates for 3 to 5 seconds before calling on someone. Okay, this sounds so simple, but it'd be transformative in the classroom. Let me explain. Usually a teacher calls on the first couple of students to raise their hands. These students are not necessarily the smartest in class, they're the fastest. Students who take longer to process rarely have a voice in the typical classroom. Again, he gives examples. So what you do is, experiencing this is a very surreal experience because I was always one of the first person to raise a hand. So like he'll ask a question, a bunch of people raise their hand, and you'll visually see in the room, like as the full 5 seconds goes by, people raising their hands at the end, and then he'll call on people. Wait time 2, this one's even more weird when you first are on the receiving end. As a follow-up to wait time 1, Rabbi Foreman also spoke of wait time 2. This is a teaching strategy in following up on a student's question. After the student responds, the teacher pauses, waiting another 3 to 5 seconds and looking reflective.
What does that mean with reflective? Got it.
Yeah, I mean, I did a bad job because I was suppressing a smile, but Rabbi Foreman had the old man sage vibe going for him, so it was a lot easier. Maybe I could do this, but I'm very bad at it because I get so excited by students' questions. I have a hard time, but so he says, waiting another 3 to 5 seconds and looking reflective. This will encourage all the students in the class to reflect as well and will demonstrate to the student who answered that you value their thinking. Yeah, so Rabbi Foreman not only talked about the value of wait time, he lived it. He was tremendously patient and meticulous in the classroom. He would pose his questions and wait until everyone had a response. He would pause after a student's response, stroke his beard for a few long moments, and then ask the others in the class to reflect on what the student had said before posing his thoughts. In fact, you know what? So I'm so bad at doing this in terms of in general. You know how I do it, though. You definitely know how I do this.
Wait. Well, you do
Monday and Mishlei is the minute of thinking.
Yeah.
I right. I mean, I don't want to say I can't do it, but I think a lot of the strength of the learning environment in my shiurim is the excitement, and I could experiment with like suppression, but like it's like one time one of my students might have been Chait, I'm not sure. They dared me to not gesture. And
you mean hand gesture?
Yeah. And so I was not aware that I hand gestured for many years until someone pointed it out to me. So I tried, and I got, first of all, my hands were profusely sweating, and like I also got like mentally like nervous, So I feel like if I tried to, I could do wait time 1, but in terms of the like when a student answers a question not responding, I think that would crimp my style, I feel
like in here at least, because there's few enough people, the people who are like slower thinkers, I think, will think about their idea and then they'll raise their hand later, and then you always call on everyone, so like you're deliberate about remembering the order, which makes it different.
That's true. And then that also conveys the fact that I value everyone's thinking.
And then it's not like, who can shoot up their hand the fastest after the other person finishes speaking. Which is a big deal. That, because when I've had teachers that did that, and then it's trying to figure out when the person's about to finish. You put your hand up.
Right. Exactly. Another thing also, which I did earlier in the Monday Night Mishlei Shir, which we have a different system now because I think it warrants it, is I davka asks for half-baked ideas first. You remember I did that for like a year and a half? I used to do that, right? So that was another thing also of encouraging people who are going to be slower thinkers or who are going to be reluctant to share. And I'm saying, no, I want you to share your intuitions. Another thing also, actually we learned in last week's Monday Night Mishlei Pasuk, which
I feel like we don't have that problem anymore because everyone's a talker now.
Right. Also, people are better at coming up with full ideas. Like, it's almost the opposite problem that there are too many ideas. It's a good problem to have though. But in this week's Pasuk in Monday Night Mishlei, mi pri fi ish yispa tov ugmul yedei adam yashiv lo. So this is gonna remind you of the mouth fruit in 18.
Yeah, when I saw the message that you sent about like, weird mushal, I'm like, I was there for 18, buddy. I wonder what it was.
That was even weirder, that one, but
I was like, eating the mouth fruit.
Right. So from the fruits of a man's mouth, he will be satiated with good, but the work, his handiwork, God will repay, will pay back to him. So we learned it initially as from the fruits of a person's own mouth, he will be satiated with good. But I think it was the Ibn Kaspi who said in Kosby's second one, who says, Hine Tov Toar. So he learns it as from the fruit of man's mouth, the good man will be satisfied. So he says, Klomer Ish Tov, the good man, Hatam, Ki Isha Tov Yispa V'yochal Mi Pri Pi Ish Va'ish. The good man will be satisfied from the mouths of each and every other person. Klomar Yikabel Tovos Mi Ish V'ish. He will receive good from other people. So we learned that to be Ezeu Chacham Halomin Mikol Adam, and trying. This is another thing that I think I try to do. Is no matter what anyone says, use that either. If they say a full idea, then articulate the idea and even if they don't say a full idea, transform it into something that is going to be a positive contribution, and sometimes that just means summarizing what they said in clearer terms, and you're going to have clearer terms because this is your expertise,
Yeah, basically acknowledging what they're saying, whether you agree or not.
Acknowledging and making it clear that this is a stepping stone that's getting us closer to our goal. Yeah, and you can do that and disagree with them. You can say, well, either agreeing. It's almost impossible. It's almost impossible to fully disagree with someone. Because oftentimes if they say a wrong idea, like the kind you posted in the Mishlei chat that I haven't responded to yet. So what you can do is you can see where they're coming from, and say this is what you're trying to do, and I agree with the question. The other thing also, and this is not going to be in a first, in a one-time session thing, but especially in the high school classroom, then building an individual rapport with each and every student, like you're my punching bag, in my shirim, because I got to get out of the aggression somehow, but also I know you can take it, and and having certain inside jokes or inside roles and stuff like that is very, even if it's something very, very small, for example, I don't need to do this with you, but I know that where stuff is in Pirkei Avos. So Isaac, where is this in Pirkei Avos? And for certain people, let's say you always got the weird kid in the class who likes some obscure topic that you can find some way to tap into that expertise. So if you don't know the people, then it's harder to do this. But if you even have any background knowledge, let's say what company they work for or what their work history is, you can incorporate that and solicit advice and input from them. You worked in marketing for several years. How did you guys approach this or something? So it's equally about seeking out unique contributions, which again makes everyone feel welcome and actually contributes to the class. Yeah.
So experientially, whenever you're what this is in Pirkei Avos,
yeah,
it always feels really good.
Yeah. And that's the other thing also, is anything you can do for to promote good feelings, even if they have nothing to do with the actual content, helps. Again, I can't help but smile when I'm learning and teaching, so I feel that puts good vibes into the thing. But again, I learned this from Rabbi Moskowitz, really, but having humorous content, comments being an acceptable thing, it just keeps everything light and happy. People don't want to feel they're just being lectured to or just passively listening. Right. Yeah.
So there are a few things you said that I want to dissect a little bit.
Okay. We won't go on forever, but
no,
yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
There's some key.
Because again, this is a huge topic, but yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
Maybe, that could be different share. But it seems one important element to you is, if you really want to summarize it, is making people feel good, which makes them feel safe.
Yes.
And the sheer such that they can be more open to.
Exactly. That's a good way to say it. And having that feeling that I don't have to be afraid that if I say something, then I'm going to be embarrassed or rejected, Yeah.
And just a comment on, early on when I first started when I first went to your Yeshiva, I didn't really know your teaching style.
Yeah.
So when you mentioned just now that, I'm going to acknowledge what you say, and, it's hard to disagree with everything you say, but you still restate or whatever.
Yeah.
So in the beginning, in my mind, I'm like, oh, okay, you're acknowledging, that means I must be right.
Yeah.
So then 5 minutes later, when I double down on the idea, I'm like, dude, I disagree with you. I'm like, what are you talking about?
Right.
I'm like,
yeah.
dude, You didn't disagree with me.
Yeah.
So like, so it would help, just
So that's interesting.
which we evolved.
Right, we did evolve. Yeah. The other thing also is that they have, you have to be genuine. So for example, I think that if someone, one of my students in the end of the year feedback, actually she didn't say this to me, she said this to her mom, and her mom told it to me, is that she said like Rabbi Schneeweiss like whatever said that like that this was a good idea, and I know that if he didn't think it was a good idea, he wouldn't say it, and I think that I can be someone who finds value in what people are saying without being this thing of like, we're going to agree with everybody, like you can have positive vibes and solicit contribution and disagree with people, but it not feel bad, so I think that's having the genuineness is good, because I've seen people who try to say, yeah, that's a good idea, and then they don't actually try to develop what the person's saying, and it comes across as disingenuous or worse,
So how do you, just one last thing, so how do you do that? Meaning like what they're saying is true in a sense, but you disagree with them on some fundamental point,
right?
So how do you make them feel good about this?
Thankfully you have a lot of training in this in yeshiva, is that in defining a machlokas, whenever you define a machlokas, then you always have a thing that they are both agreeing with, and then you define the differences. So that move itself is just a very good way to do that. And most people are not exposed to that move. So like a lot of people, it's just an either or type thing, yes or no. So yeah. Okay, good question. That's a fun question. Yeah. Okay, next. Yeah. Sorry, I should have waited 3 or 5 seconds. No, you didn't know the routine. Yeah.
So I was wondering, so the there's the Rambam's prescription of how you should spend your time learning, Shlish Shlish.
Yeah, let me just state that in English for that the Rambam, I'm just going to read it because it's short. Is that okay? Rambam, Hilchos Talmud Torah, already there. 111 says, a person should split his learning time into thirds. Shlish b'torah b'chsav, a third of the time in the written Torah. Shlish b'torah b'al peh, a third of the time in the oral Torah, which oral Torah does not mean Gemara. It means learning the halachos, basically, like it's the Mishnah Torah, the equivalent of the Mishnah Torah. And then shlish, and then the third, yavin v'yaskil achris davar mirishi. So he should understand and comprehend the end of the matter from its beginning. Loosely speaking, that's what we call svara. Okay, but v'yotzi davar midavar, and derive one thing from another, v'yidam davar l'davar, and compare one thing to another, v'yadin v'midos she'atorah nidreshes ben ad she'yidaheach ikra hamidos, and apply the 13 midos that the Torah is expounded through until you know the essence of the midos. We don't do that so much anymore here. V'heach yotzi ha'asur v'mutar v'kiyotzihem midvarim shalom and b'yashmuel, and how the practical halacha emerges from the things in Torah Sheba'al Peh, v'inyan zeh hu nikra Talmud, and that is called Talmud, not Talmud Bavli, not Talmud Yerushalmi, but the activity of Talmud. And then he goes on to say that this is for the beginning of your learning. That's at the beginning of a person's learning. When he no longer needs to learn Torah Sheba'al or be involved constantly in Torah Sheba'al Peh, he should review Torah Sheba'al and Torah Sheba'al Peh from time to time, so he doesn't forget any of the laws of the Torah. And he should turn all of his days to Talmud alone, based on the abstractness of his mind and his Yeshiva das. And he says that Talmud includes philosophy and science as well. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So my question is, what's the balance of that versus Chafetz?
Yeah.
You should learn like what you want to learn.
Yeah.
I guess it's partially different for me than it is for this question is partly different for me than it is for people in yeshiva, because I know that's like a separate thing, but I'm saying outside the confines of yeshiva.
Right. Yeah. So first of all, I have to give a reluctant nod to Rabbeinu Tam, who I gave a rant here on this in 2021. That Rabbeinu, it wasn't single-handedly Rabbeinu Tam, but she does Rabbeinu Tam that changed Ashkenazic the curriculum, where Ashkenazim focus tend to focus exclusively on Talmud. And his shita is that you get all three when you're in there. It definitely, you can't say that was the wrong move to make in Ashkenaz because it preserved the Masorah, but I think it's unfortunate that that's what people do now. So I think that the primary thing is that in terms of your you should only learn what you're interested, what your heart desires. Do that through Torah Shebeksav, Torah Shebal Peh, and Talmud, to the extent that you can. In other words, you will be able to approach most sugyas in triplicate, and some of them will be weighted more heavily in one than the other. For example, Shabbos is very light on the psukim in terms of the halachos, but then very big on the Talmud. But there's still a lot of stuff you could do, like in the Torah Shebeksav of the Tamei Mitzvos of Shabbos, and then the role that Shabbos plays, etc. And you'll find that because it's a topic you're interested in, then you'll be able, seeing it through different angles is going to involve your mind even more, and you'll see stuff that you didn't see before. That would be the general advice. If your question is, what if you only like one of these three things,
Well, yeah. I guess my particular question is, like, I have like certain, chavrusas or shirim I go to that are specific things. And
Yeah.
Like I go to Mishlei shir.
Yeah.
I have a Pirkei chavrusa. I have I have a chavrusa where we're going through Hilchos Mechira and the Rambam.
Yeah.
I have chavrusas for specific things, or share specific things, and like it would be, each chavrusa it was something that person and I wanted to learn.
Yeah.
And we have a good dynamic.
Yeah.
Learning.
Right.
But I wasn't like trying to balance that with this thing. So
okay, so I mean, this is I'm going to answer this is not sock.
Yeah.
Okay. I think the top priority in all of our lives, we're in such a woeful state regarding Torah. You need to do whatever is going to keep Torah alive for you and make you excited about learning. That's why I think in Chafetz should be after yeshiva, should be the main thing that dictates what you learn and who you learn with and how you learn it. In yeshiva, you're training, so you got to get the training in, which you're not going to be able to do as successfully after yeshiva. So there's that consideration. But I think you got to do whatever's going to, keep your Torah learning alive and keep you excited about it. And the great thing about Torah is that everything is interconnected. So you will be drawn, if you allow yourself to be drawn into different areas, you will be. There is another consideration here, which is producing a well-rounded Talmid Chachamim, which this will do. And on the one hand, I can't disagree with that as a goal. On the other hand, I don't know if I'm up to the task, so what's the best thing to do with the weeks of my life? I'd rather form a solid connection to Torah and Avos Hashem and Yiras Hashem, even if I don't end up learning Nezikin, So, and again, back then it was way more important because the whole Masorah was contingent on everyone becoming well-rounded and passing on Kol Torah Kula to everyone else. Again, I'm not saying this halakhically, but I think that there's a good argument to say that the Masorah is not in the same danger that it was back then, which would necessitate the same urgency for everyone to know this. I mean, I was just doing in Pirkei Avos in 3:17, Siag Masoret Siag LaTorah. And Rabbeinu Yonah says what that means is the memorization of all of the ta'amim and all of the nekudos and all of the mali and chaser spellings is what protects Torah Shebeksav from being forgotten. And if it weren't for centuries, if not millennia, of people preserving that, we wouldn't have Torah Shebeksav. Thank God we don't have to memorize those things anymore because they're written down. And there are people who have to be involved in the Fistels of the world who are going to be involved in understanding all of that. But I don't have to apportion my time to that anymore. And I think that that's a good thing for me. So there's a lot of stuff that we don't have to worry about Torah being forgotten,
Zimmer mentions nowadays, his theory is that we just think differently. That's
the other thing also, right?
Access to so much Torah.
Right. You can offload, right.
It's like back then, they didn't have the Masifta.
Right.
And so they just it was just a different type of, I don't know, I have to talk more about it. But
yeah, right.
You there at that
no, I wasn't. But you can divide all of history into PM and AM, right? Is pre Masifta and after Masifta.
Exactly. That's it. Right?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I would say, keep learning what you're interested in.
Okay.
Yeah. But keep in mind that there is, again, the more well-rounded you are, the better your learning will be. So going into different areas that you're not necessarily interested in, at least to try it out, same thing as like, we were talking about this at Shlish, at trying out food that you don't like, and then maybe one day you'll like it. I feel like we were talking about that. Yeah. But that's a thing.
I thought I could do it with, let's say, like pickles. I try every few years. And I'm like,
yeah, right. With pickles, that worked for me.
Yeah.
Is
Okay.
last year I started liking pickles. Pickles used to be the one flavor, pickled things, the one flavor I could not stand. And
Yeah, but something where it did work for me is with red onions. Like I would like not eat things that had like chopped like onions in them, and now I really like that.
Yeah, and it's important because your tastes do change. And your intellectual tastes change also, and also especially because we're in an unfortunate state where I'd say that the main reason why any of us don't like learning anything is because of educational abuse, that we had bad educational experiences, or just not, it's abuse. Never mind, it's definitely abuse. The natural state of the human being is to be curious about everything. And that gets stamped out and smothered and extinguished in many areas. And sometimes what needs to happen is you develop a good, healthy relationship with Chachma in the areas that you like, and then certain things that you had shut off come online again because you move past the trauma.
Yeah.
I'd say if a person doesn't like specific things, it might not just be because of abuse. I've realized about myself that I don't like learning, or in the past at least, I haven't liked learning areas that I feel like I should, have more knowledge about because I'm embarrassed about my lack of knowledge. Like
that's not educational abuse.
It's not because of it's just because
I'd say that is 100% educational abuse.
No, it's like social, like busha. It's not like
I disagree. I highly disagree. I think that if you had teachers who nourished an environment of Eina Baishan Lomed and made everyone feel comfortable, with areas that they don't know, then you would neglect is a form of abuse also, by the way. I think that it's a fault of the education system, and I know in your case it's not a fault of your parents.
Well, I will say that there are two elements to that. Meaning there's the system where it causes, and I do think there is a personality that needs. Someone has to develop a personality of not having busha. I disagree. I disagree. I think that kids have you ever seen kids ask questions? Little kids ask questions. They have no busha. But they stop asking questions because they're made to feel ashamed of asking questions. Kids are naturally curious and ask and are not ashamed at all.
Yeah, I guess the thing that I was disagreeing with, which might not be what you're saying,
was
I was saying that it's not specifically educators; it's also society.
Right, but where does society get that from? From how they relate to education.
Yeah,
it's in the blood of the education system. Educators are not the only gobbers who are doing it. But
that's right.
Yeah, they also maybe I'll use a different word than abuse. I'll say malpractice. Yeah.
Okay. So, shoot. I guess this is another question.
I just want to.
But this is related to this. But it might just be a new segment of.
Okay. I just want to give whoever this iPhone is and Sean an opportunity to ask a question in case they had one.
But this is related to this.
I understand.
Okay.
I'm making a decision. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Did you? Okay. iPhone.
I'm thinking of a way to formulate it.
Okay.
Yeah, but not at the moment. Thank you.
All right, go ahead. Right,
So when the Gemara talks about Emes Bashman and Lomed.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Like back then, it seems like they had they provided a society where they weren't abusing. I'm going on that premise.
Do you know the sentence after it? I think it's after it. V'lo hakapta melamed, and an impatient person can't teach. And that's the halacha. There have always been impatient teachers, and impatient doesn't mean that you don't like waiting. Impatient means that you are not willing to exercise rachamim in meeting the person where they're at in terms of developmentally. I just want to read this halacha. I know you didn't finish asking your question yet, but I just want to read this halacha in Perik Daled. Yeah, harav shalimid v'lo hivinu talmidim. So the teacher teaches something and the students don't understand. Lo yichos aleim v'yirgas. He should not get angry at them or rage at them. Ela chozer v'shona hadavar afilu kama pamim. He should go back and teach the thing even many times. Until they understand the depth of the halacha. So too, a student should not say, I understood, if he didn't understand. He should go back and ask even many times. If his Rav gets angry at him and rages, he should say to him, Rebbe, Torah he should say, Rebbe, it is Torah and I need to learn and my mind is deficient. But lo yihi hatamid bosh mechavero shalamdo mipam rishona oshnia v'hulo lamad ela achar kama pamim. A student should not be ashamed of his because of his friend who learned it the first or second time and he didn't learn it until after many times. Because if he's embarrassed about this, nimsa nichnas v'yotze lebeis hamedrash v'hu eino lamed klum. He'll just go in and out of the beis midrash without learning anything. Lefikach amru chachamim harishonim ein habayshan lamed v'lo hakaptem malamed. And that's why they say an embarrassed student cannot learn and an impatient teacher cannot teach. But when is this talking about? That's if the students don't understand because of the depth, or because their mind is deficient. But if the Rav sees that the students are being lazy about Torah, and being lax about it, and that's why they didn't understand, the Rav is obligated to rage at them. You notice he doesn't say he's obligated to get angry, because you never get angry, but to in behavior to rage at them and to shame them verbally in order to sharpen them, which nowadays you probably shouldn't do. Or you should do it more with more sensitivity. That's what the Chachamim mean when they say you should cast dread into the Talmidim. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean,
so they had the problem back then.
No. Okay. Fine.
Just
That's
not,
okay. Okay. That's okay.
Yeah.
I'm interpreting this Gemara meaning like it's a two-way street.
That's exactly the thing. It's a two-way street.
Right.
But
I just want to clarify what you said before. I mean, it seems like what you were saying before is just it's focused on the society versus like the individual.
The reason why I was saying that is because I'm saying that the natural state of the human is to not be embarrassed and to be curious. So the unfortunate thing is that people do get to the point where they are ashamed, and maybe this is just what do they call it, rose-colored glasses, like nostalgizing the past. Maybe I'd like to think that it wasn't as a widespread of a problem back then as it is now, but it could be. I just have such a bad view of the American education system that systematically produces embarrassed students. So that's why I'm saying in our system the real responsibility lies on the teacher.
Yeah, 100%. That's true.
I mean the ikar responsibility. I mean we all have to overcome this ourselves. Yeah, Yeshua.
I wanted to wait 5 seconds before unmuting. What would you say are some of the biggest takeaways you've had from your teaching that do not pertain to teaching or learning?
Biggest takeaways that I've taken away from my teaching, meaning that I have gotten as a teacher?
Yeah.
That's a good question. That don't pertain to teaching or learning.
Correct.
That's a good question. I mean, I've said this a lot, and it's not just because I'm in a Talmud Torah mood today, but it is a very unique relationship between a Rav and his Talmidim, which is stated in Halacha 5. And I've gotten this on both ends, is that, on the Rebbe end and on the Talmid end, that I'll read it here also. Just as Talmidim are obligated in honoring the Rav, so too the Rav is obligated to honor his Talmidim and bring them close. Which, by the way, I know you did this with Isaiah, but hopefully you noticed that there's two different nuschos here. Let the kavod of your Talmid be as dear to you as the kavod of your friend. I think there's another another version that says, let the kavod of your Talmid be as chaviv to you as your own kavod.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
A person needs to be careful with his students and to love them. They are his children who benefit him in this world and in the next world. Talmidim increase the chachma of the Rav and expand his mind. Amru chachamim harbe chachma lamadati mechavera yeser me'rabosai u'mitalmida yeser me'kulam. The chachamim said that I've learned a lot of chachma from my friends and more than from my rabbis, but from my students more than everyone. Just like a small piece of kindling can ignite a big fire. So too, an inferior Talmud can sharpen the Rav until he brings forth with his questions wondrous chachma. But this thing here of the closeness with Talmidim and the love of the Talmidim, the Rambam says that's the highest relationship that you can have, is that of a Rav to a Talmud and a Talmud to a Rav. And those are two different relationships. And when you say not involving the learning and the teaching, I know you don't mean to exclude this, because obviously that your question wouldn't be able to be asked if not for like coming about through this. But I'm saying like there's no relationship that I know of like a Rav and a Talmud and a Rav. And like I think having those relationships has enriched my life tremendously, but also each individual relationship like that is a special thing. Again, that I've had with my students and that I've had with my Rebbeim. And that's, I think, that's like immeasurably, like, you know, I don't know, that's an incalculable benefit. Yeah, Isaac.
That's like the thing that someone said about why is this like these are the children of Moshe and Aaron, and then Aaron's sons.
Yeah.
Because Moshe taught Aaron, so that
right.
Therefore like his sons.
That's good. Yeah, I forgot about that. This is also why I was actually talking about this morning with Ben. Is that you know, when we almost a year ago now was when Rabbi Moskowitz died, and if you listen to any of the Hespedim or the Shloshim, almost all of it was about their relationship to Rabbi Moskowitz as a person. You know, it wasn't about the particular ideas. It was who he was and that presence. And I think that's another facet of this. And by the way, I hope that everyone who is able to does come to the Rabbi Moskowitz memorial thing on the 21st in Yeshiva at 5 p.m. Where everyone's going to be sharing memories of Rabbi Moskowitz. Just because, you know, if you're not doing anything then, or if you are doing something and can cancel, I think that's it would mean a lot to me, but I think it's going to be very beneficial to you as well, because you don't have people like Rabbi Moskowitz, you know, in abundance. And so like, you know, I think it's the 21st, right?
Is that a Sunday?
Yeah, Sunday, yeah. Say it again?
This month?
This month, but next Sunday. Yeah, not this Sunday, but the Sunday after that.
I'll
yeah,
be there.
a week from Sunday. Yeah, I'm also giving a Sunday shir in memory of Rabbi Moskowitz. I'm going to do the Eishes Chayil shir, which I have not done in Yeshiva in a long time, and it was never recorded. So.
Yeah, you know, just to that point about building that close relationship with him, like as a person, you know,
Yeah.
like, you know, like that's one of the reasons why like I hung out with the Rav a lot.
Yes, yeah,
You know,
yeah,
like,
and that's why.
there's an element of like learning, which is great.
Yeah.
But I think you also learn a lot about just being around someone.
So much so, it's a separate mitzvah saseh, right? The separate mitzvah saseh. Anyone want to say? That's true, but what's the actual mitzvah?
I don't know. I
Is
didn't know it was a mitzvah.
oh, it is. Let me get it in the
And this, which thing you're saying?
of hanging around with Chaim or Chait is a mitzvah d'oraisa.
Yeah, like I would walk with them. I would daven honeys with them. Like spending those extra 15, 20 minutes in the car with them.
Yeah,
While I'm filling up gas, shopping with them. It's a great experience.
yeah. Yes, uladavka bo, right? So the Torah says you should cling to God, right? And what does Chazal ask on that?
What does that mean?
Yeah, how is it possible to cling to God? And the answer is cling to Talmidei Chachamim, right? And again, that's the amazing thing is it's not the same mitzvah as learning from Talmidei Chachamim. It's associating with them in every type of association. Let me just read it in the Rambam really quickly.
It's funny, that was verse of Naomi.
Yeah, it's true. Everything comes back to Rus. It's a great Megillah.
I'm telling you, like this is she clung to God.
Anyone want to predict what mitzvah it is or remember what mitzvah it is? I want to say it's 6, but I don't know.
I want to say it's 5.
Okay, I want to say 5. Oh yeah, it's I think 5 is swearing in God's name. No, that's certainly that's avoda. Wow, that's a busha on my part, but I shouldn't be embarrassed. Yeah, so this is the mitzvah to befriend Talmidei Chachamim and to be together with them. Okay, I got my taste. In Adam Lomi Ela B'Targum Shli Chafetz. I gotta use Chafetz. So you should draw close to chachamim and befriend them. And persist or continually be close to them. Yeshiva and sit with them. In all ways of closeness. Eating with them, drinking with them, doing business with them. So that you should resemble them in action and to know the true svaras in their words. Interesting phrase. This is what God says, you should cling to him. To God. You should cling to him. You should cling to Chachamim and their Talmidim. And then I'll just finish reading because it's short. One of the key of this mitzvah is you should marry the daughter of a Talmid Chachamim and you should marry off your daughter to a Talmid Chachamim. You should be involved with them and benefit them. Is it possible to cling to God? The pasuk says, it says God is a consuming fire. And then it says the mitzvah. So that's its own mitzvah, because the perfection you get from association with Talmid Chachamim is different than the learning.
Yeah, I also feel like the more you understand their personality, the more you not just know him in the sheer sense, but like outside of it, it could help you understand him, like how he relates to certain things within the Torah. Exactly,
because you're seeing the Torah embodied in a person. This is what the product of the Torah is. This is, David.
A separate question.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good question, Yeshua. That's going to be with me for a while. Yeah.
When I ask someone to say Shabbat.
Yes, I meant to remind me of what the question was. So I have not thought about it. But tell me again.
It'll be too long.
Okay.
Wait for another time. Okay. So, question is, when you're saying saying over an idea to someone, you want to hear their thoughts back. Or at least when I'm saying over this idea, I'm primarily looking for their thoughts back and also for them to be engaged and interested in the idea.
This is actually Ariel's first question that we discussed for the first 20 minutes.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, so listen to that, and if you have more questions, then we can talk about that. Yeah. It's funny. I had so much forgotten your question that it didn't occur to me that it was the same question. Yeah, he was asking specifically about Zoom, but we talked about general principles. Yeah. Okay, next question.
Do you have any questions?
You always ask me that. I always have questions, but I want to use precious time.
We want to know what kind of questions you ask.
What kind of questions do you ask?
Yeah.
What's a good question?
Yeah. I mean, the thing is that, a lot of my questions are tied to the shiurim I'm preparing. But then a lot of my questions, like the question that's been on my mind is the thing I shared in the discussion chat about what is the purpose of a yeshiva, because that amazing response thing from Rabbi, I'm just going to read it for those who didn't hear. Rabbi says this is apparently in a shir on Pirkei Avos 3:17, but this is in Rabbi Moshe Ben Chaim's write-up. Happiness is contingent on one principle, that man lives in line with the function of his soul. One who has experienced the pleasures of the soul to some degree, the pursuit of wisdom and the experience of uncovering scientific and Torah marvels, will try with all his efforts to bring himself to a state where he is close to the soul's function to a higher degree. This is the purpose of a yeshiva, to provide this experience. A yeshiva cannot give a person perfection, since it is a very individualistic process, but it can give a person the experience of what it is like to be involved in the essence of the soul and its foundations. Once one experiences it, he can arrange his life to reach that goal. I thought that was an amazing definition of what a yeshiva is, and also one that I would have not predicted that Rebbe would have said. If you had asked me, what does Rebbe think the purpose of yeshiva is, I would say is to teach the derech halimud, and he would certainly acknowledge that the purpose of a derech halimud is this, but to say to provide an experience of this life that a person can then hold up as a target to aim for, that's an amazing experience. And the question I'm asking myself, this is the question I've been thinking about all morning, is like, I can't control what the yeshiva does, but to what extent am I doing this in my limited sphere of influence of like my shiurim, the way I interact with my talmidim, the content I produce, and to what extent am I doing this? And it's a scary question to ask yourself. This is related to what we were talking about last week of the educational philosophy. I might need to now update my educational philosophy for this. I think that is implicit in the 4 goals that I set out, but it's not explicit. And I don't know, to me, it was like, So the question is more of a personal question of to what extent am I doing this?
I
Yeah.
think it's also cool with that then of how a community plays out. in
Yes.
that.
Yeah. Sorry.
Okay, I mean, I just see it as, one that just makes it a lot easier when there's just like conflict, everything, the community
Yeah.
discussions that are happening, all
Yeah.
that's happening. And then, so I think it's more accessible and also, it's much more of a value then. Like,
Yeah.
people are looking for.
I've said this many times. Well, let's actually see what I wrote on the website copy. I wrote about this. We'll stop in a second, but our community. What did I write? The Yeshiva community plays an essential role in the lives of our students. Over the past 50 years, our community has grown to include generations of families, all united by their love of Torah and desire to live in accordance with its teachings. The warmth of the community is felt every Shabbat when families host Talmidim for meals filled with good food, deep discussions, and lasting friendships. Members of the Yeshiva community provide our students with care, advice, and a home away from home while they pursue their studies. I mean, I didn't capture the full thing, but what I was talking about this morning is you were here for, and you have residual memories of this. I don't remember how old people are at different times. There was a period where guys didn't stay in for Shabbos in Yeshiva. Maybe it was before your time. I don't remember. But there was a period where we had a lot of guys who had family in the area and people just wouldn't stay in for Shabbos. And like, I have often said that the experience of the community here is almost as important and in some ways more important than the actual shiurim. I can't say it's more important, but like it's like a yin yang thing.
Yeah, that was way before my time, but I just to that point, I first experienced that when I was living at home for my first year of YBT.
Yeah.
Big mistake.
Yeah.
I didn't live my prayer.
Yeah.
But when I visited YBT,
Yeah.
Like during some of those Shabbos
Yeah.
or towards the summer.
Yeah.
Like that's when like they got me to Heinz.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And okay, fine. Like I started going. I went to Heinz. I went to Rabbi Kiddush, and then I'm like, wow, this is a great experience.
Yeah. It's a powerful.
And then I moved on, like I did that for like up until now.
Yeah.
So,
All right.
it was
Yeah.
part of the community.
Yep, definitely. All right. Good questions. Good thought-provoking discussions as always. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.